Hey, it's number 2. As I said, I haven't moved because it's comfy, warm, and I took my sunglasses off though because the sun's gone behind the cloud, so I'm not like blinded. Okay, um, and you know that's the still that's going to cover me going like yeah, because when you record stuff and that happens, or when you take a photo and there's always that one person. Okay, beside the point, we're still going to stay in chapter 13 of Helaman, and we're going to go to verse 24 because this is during his preaching on the wall, and it's good to read all this because there's some really he sounds harsh, but these people needed it. Yeah, just read it. It's just good. It's an easy read. It's beautiful reading. It's not a struggle. We're going to cover if you're feeling struggled with it in number 5. So if you're feeling struggled with these words, go to number 5. All right. I haven't done that one, but we will. Okay, so Alma 13:24. It says, "Yea, woe unto this people because of this time which has arrived, that you do cast out the prophets, and do mock them, and cast stones at them, and do slay them, and do all manner of iniquity unto them, even as they did of old time." And yet they do this to him as well. As you read in the coming chapters, they throw stones at him and try to shoot arrows at him. Of course, Samuel, being the wonderful prophet he is completely protected by the Lord, so it doesn't hurt him. FYI, just to cover this photo of it, we often see that beautiful picture that we've got, and it's a stunning photo, like painting, don't get me wrong on that. It's a beautiful painting where Samuel's this tiny little figure up on this massive wall, and if you actually read through here where he jumps off the wall, like, so he wouldn't be able to jump off that wall. So the painting I've learned of these paintings that you see, because the Stripling Warriors is another one, but they all look like they're built like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's just not how it was. But that's the painting has been done to signify their character and their strength and portray an image. It doesn't mean it was a photo. And I think in this day and age, sorry, sun's coming back, in this day and age we can't look at the paintings and think of them as photos, and our minds do that because we're so used to photos and what it actually looked like, or filtered over photos even, FYI, I do these with no filter because life's beautiful enough. Just look at that. Yeah, so I've learned that about paintings. So when you look at the paintings, remember that's the artist's interpretation and what the artist is trying to convey, not necessarily what it actually looked like. Because as a kid, that's kind of what we were sort of just shown all the time. That's what stuck in my mind. So the picture in this week's Come Follow Me manual for this lesson is a really good one, and I think quite an accurate one of probably what it more looked like him preaching on the wall. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so you don't really throw rocks and fire arrows at President Nelson. Well, I'd hope nobody does. And I'm sorry, President Nelson, if someone's done that to you. I would have stood in the way and taken it for you. However, more importantly these days, again going to social media and photos and all sorts of stuff out there, are you casting metaphorical rocks at a prophet? Is what he says, what has it caused your heart to react like that? What is it that causes you to act like that? Actually, I said the first one, if it was number 2, not number 5. Anyway, you'll get it. Okay. So this quote I found from Richard L. Evans. Again, it sounds harsh, but keep in mind of when he said it, which is like, I think it was 63, 64, it's a BYU speech. Anyway, he says, "A prophet is seldom popular, and the cost of being a prophet is always great. For he may be called upon to say those things which are not pleasing, and as history records, be stoned, crucified, banished, ridiculed, shunned, or rejected. It is not important that a prophet should say those things which you and I are in full accord, but it is important that you and I should bring ourselves into full accord with the things which a prophet speaks by virtue of his office and calling." And that's the important line, is that, like the end bit there, like not every time the prophet speaks are we going to go, "Oh yeah, we feel like that." Sometimes we'll have to say, "Oh, okay, let me pray on that one and gain my testimony of it." And that's us bringing us into full accord with them. But when they're speaking as a prophet, not just having a regular conversation, when they're speaking as a prophet, and FYI, that's any of our First Presidency or Quorum of the 12, they are all prophets, seers, and revelators. So when they're speaking in that capacity, we need to bring ourselves into accord if that's not something that we agree with. Now the obvious one that I use, and it's, you know, I do other ones. This one was a hard one for me though, and I think that's why it sticks in my mind. I'm a big fan of jewelry, as you can tell. Love my Pandora charms, and I had my ears pierced several times. This one was 3, this time was 3 there, and I had one up there. Now if you guys remember of my age group and older, you'll remember when President Hinckley talked about women wearing just one set of earrings. And that was hard for me. I came home from that conference, because that's when we still had conference at the chapel, where everybody gathered and watched it on video like a month later. Excuse the helicopter. It's the one for the hospital, so we'll let it go. Yeah, so we were watching this like a month after it happened at the chapel, and I was like, oh, I really like my jewelry. I like the way my earrings were. I was even thinking of getting a nose piercing or even a lip piercing, and didn't really see a problem with it. But then when he said that, he's speaking in the office and the virtue of his calling, and I, okay. And although I didn't find myself in full accord at that moment, when I came home, I took them out that day. And since then I've only had one earring in each ear. Now sometimes the earrings are big and sometimes they're really dangly and they're quite bold, because that's what I like. But you know, that's bringing myself into full accord for whatever the purpose that he said that, and until it changes and a prophet says something different, that's what it is. And so I've written down here, so in their capacity as prophet or prophetess, because there have been some, they speak what God puts in their hearts. It is for the good and providence of God's children. We rebel and argue more so when we know it's true and do not want to face that reality or to change. And that's where our argument comes from. We're not wanting to change, we're not wanting to face that reality. That's why we rebel more, we get angry with it. So if we're truly in full accord, we find no issue, because as soon as the words are spoken, the Holy Ghost testifies to us of their truthfulness. And that's what happened to me then. I might not have been in full accord as soon as he said it, but as the words processed through my head, the Holy Ghost spoke to me. Someone's gone again. The Holy Ghost spoke to me the truthfulness of that revelation. And I'm like, you know, I don't have to like it. I just need to be obedient to it. And it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, especially when we love those things. Yeah, it's not an easy one. But think about that, because that really kind of is throwing metaphorical rocks at the prophet. I don't really want to do that. It's not a very nice thing to do. So, you know, maybe there's something recently. I can't think of anything recently. I think because I've aligned myself so much with Christ now and doing so much trying to walk that path, that I don't actually find anything that the prophet says offensive or hard to hear. I'm actually quite open to it and accepting of it, because I'm in that space. But that takes a way to get there, and I wasn't always like that. So I don't really think on that. Oh, we're all over time, so I think, yeah, we are. Okay, so I'll show you some more flowers in the next one, number 3. Alright, see you in a bit.